Talk with the Doc. I'm excited to be here tonight as always. It's another Wednesday and it's another story, and I'm excited to be here as always. I have with me tonight, coming in from across the pond, way over in England, Pastor Gary K. Graham, and I am excited to talk to him, and I can't wait to hear what his story has been like. Maybe he doesn't even think he has a story, but we'll find out if there is a story when we go along. So when I come back, I am going to be talking to Pastor Gary across the pond. So stay tuned, my friend. Invite your friends to join us. It's going to be a good time. ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. Yes, sir. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Pastor Gary Graham. How you call your name? Gary, which one?
Gary. It doesn't really matter
Gary.
what anybody wants to call me. I know what my name sounds like, so I'll answer to it.
I just want to get it right. I just want to get it right. All right, my friends, I have Pastor Gary Graham joining me from England tonight, live. Welcome to Let's Talk with the Doc, Pastor. Good to have you.
It's good to be a part of your show, Elder. It's great to know that I can be with a major show host on the is it the Eastern Seaboard?
You
You're
know,
almost.
I go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're almost in the limelight as Tucker Carlson and all the famous ones. That's not that
Well,
I listen
I'm,
to, but
I'm,
you're.
I'm, I'm, I'm gonna wink. I'm gonna wink at that one.
Oh man, but I one good thing about the show that I was listening to just a moment ago was the music. I love your intro. That
Okay, okay.
really keep anybody going there, and especially the bass line. That I
Ah,
was.
well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, so I'm glad to have you. I'm excited to have you, and thank you for joining me. I like to share people's story or to air people's story because stories are so interesting and so fascinating and so unique as well. And sometimes, as we say, people don't even know that they really have a story until they tell it and listen back to their own story or listen to themselves telling their story. That's when they realize that's a real story. All right, so I like to start off with my guests from where your starting point, your beginning days, where you were born. What was it like when you were born, growing up, family dynamics, siblings, where you fall, those little fundamentals at the beginning stages. So those who don't know who is Gary Graham, and just for FYI, this is the son of Bishop Lesmond Graham, who was the national overseer for Jamaica for so many years, who we have grown to love and respect. So this is his son Gary. That much I know. So tell us some more about what we don't know.
Well, that's what I know also. So that's what I know. But yes, my early beginnings, born in England, city of Birmingham, in the early 1960s. 1962. I am the first child of Lesmond Graham and Viola Graham. My
Okay.
my sister, who is a couple of years younger than myself, Karen, she was born in the same city in England as myself. So that is our early beginnings there. The dynamics of the family. Well, mom was the powerhouse. Mom was the one that really, really ran the roost, and we just fell behind, and she supported dad. Really, that's, I mean, the early beginnings of the family. Really, as anybody who knows my parents, put it that way, knows them, that they just dedicated themselves to the ministry of the church. So in growing up, that's all I know as far as life, the beginnings of life. I saw my father, a minister, pastor, my mother there supporting him and also ministering alongside him. So that's my early beginnings. I don't know anything else of them. They may say that they had a career before that, but I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
I know that mom was a nurse. I know mom was a nurse, and she spent many years in that profession. Dad, I am aware that dad he worked in the university in the Department of Sciences. So that's so much I've heard about, but I can only talk about, I believe, from when I began to make sense of anything.
Mhm,
Really,
mhm.
you understand that I only know my parents as ministers within the church.
And that tells us that they've been there for a long time, right?
Yes, as long as I am around, as long as I am alive.
Okay, okay. What was it? What was it like between you and Karen? How much years are you older than Karen?
2 years. I'm
Two
just two
years. 2 years.
older than. Yes.
Okay, so what was it like between you and her big brother, little sister? What was it? What can you remember as big brother, little sister growing up with Karen?
Well, as children, I think to be honest, things were up and down. I won't say it was a lovey-dovey kind of relationship. If one be true, mom would say at times when things weren't good how we used to get on like cat and dog in the place, and we can't live, you know, um, and such. But I think that is how siblings, isn't it? Siblings kind of test each other.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes, sometimes siblings fight for territory.
Yes, yes. And I think I think in growing up, what I see and what I can sense of it, Elder, is that um, whether it's male or female, whether it's brothers, two brothers or sisters, two sisters or brother and sister, I've seen it in my own family, in my own children, that they will test to see how far they can go with each other. And with my sister and I think that what has developed out of that, I Karen is a good. It's a pity that she didn't really follow, I believe, her true. I don't know if she's going to hit me for this, but her true calling, which would be a lawyer. I think she'd be a very good lawyer because she used to really talk me out of a lot of tight scrapes. You know what I mean? So anytime I was going to get into a little bit of trouble, I would kind of nudge her to say, "Well, talk for me," because I can't say much.
So she was your advocate and your defender.
Yes, yes. She, she has a way.
Oh,
She has a
okay.
way of communicating, which I appreciate even up until now. Anyway,
Is she of a sharper temperament than you are, or what?
in her younger days, I would say that she was more. sharper. I mean, in a sense that she's very sharp mentally.
Hmm.
She's very sharp mentally, and she's. I would probably say she's sharp. She's always been sharper than me mentally, and I think out of the two of us, more academic in that nature because everybody's not the same.
Right,
So
right.
she really did very, very well when it came to her academics and um, and the study. Whereas for me, I would have to do something. I've got to be involved, in order to catch it. And that's how I have. That's how I have learned and excelled really by doing a lot
Okay.
of reading. I love to read, so I will read and I will learn and put in practice and do other little things that would that would enhance my vocation. I mean, I've really done quite a bit um, in my life, really. So I thank the Lord for that. God has very, very much been um, really open doors for me in my life, more than
Amen.
probably.
To God be the
Yeah.
glory on that. To God be the glory on that. All right,
Uh,
so you're born into the family, mom and dad, they are Christians in ministry. All you know is going to church. All you know is going
yeah.
to church. Tell us what church life has been like for you in your young days, because the average kid goes to church because they have to go to church. It was the way of life. They didn't have an option. So what was did Gary just joyfully go as he grew up? I mean, growing up and as a young boy, decided to say, okay, I want to play around with my friends. I have to go, and my friends are not going. How did you look at that as a young boy growing up and following the guidelines and the requirement of the parents who are so deeply involved in ministry? How did Gary handle that?
That average kid that you spoke to, did he mention a name like Gary? Because that average kid really could be me. And
That's why it's average.
yes, yes. I no, we never had a choice. We when it was Sundays, we had to get up. We didn't have anything like what is going on today by popping a head around the corner and asking a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, "Are you going to church today? Or are you going to
Right.
Sunday school today?" That was never asked. We were woken up. We were given the clothes to put on or assisted if we needed to be assisted at the age, and we got ready and we went to church. Um, Again, a child really does not know the joys of going to church, if you understand.
Right. Right.
But church was like another family to us. You know, thinking of going to meet my friends at church for Sunday school, even though to us then going to Sunday school and church, it was discipline. You know what I mean? When you go to church, you had to sit down and you
Mm-hmm.
you, you couldn't turn to the left or you couldn't turn to the right. you had to you had to keep your face straight up until a certain age. We sat beside mom, and we could move. Well, put it this way: before we got out of the house, we went to the toilet. So by the time we got to church,
So so
that was
so they send you to go empty your bowels and make sure you come back clean, because you're gonna.
that was it. We were in church and we sat there until church finished. Not
Wow.
if we wanted to pass. Well, put it this way: our children will never know what it is not to have a phone. They'll never know because um, we the only time we communicated was when we saw each other at church.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Been there. I know. I know the story. I know the story. I know the
And
story. We never have phones. I mean, phones, that's like something more of now. Back then, yeah, you only meet at prayer meetings, and when you get to church, you say all that you have to have, I say all you have to say before you leave, because you're not seeing them
exactly,
again until no more communication until the next church time.
exactly. And the thing about it, there was a telephone at home, but dare you touch it,
There you
you
okay, all right, all right, all right, all right. That
couldn't
that
touch.
was that was out of bounds.
The only time you touch it is if it ring. You may have the chance to answer it. You may have the chance to answer it. But apart from that, and I think I think to me, that was discipline. I mean, we have children coming into church these days. They don't know what's going on. Even they may be sitting down in front of you, but they just have, this iPad or this iPhone, and they just glued on it. And there's no respect for the house of God or for anything
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
happening within the house of God.
That discipline no longer exists. Unfortunately, and unfortunately, it's night and day where we were coming from to where we are now.
Amen.
All
Yes.
right, so now you've been going to church by requirement. What was it like? What was it like for, well, you did tell me that you like to read. You're a hands-on guy. You learn by getting involved. What was it like? What were you involved in church growing up as a young boy? What were your gifts and talents as a young boy in church?
At a very early age, especially I would say when my father and my mother they started pastoring in the Birmingham area around. If I'm sure Dad would. I've told Dad I'm coming on tonight, so I've got to um, cross my I's and dot my T's. But I think it was around 1968 that they moved from Birmingham to London to pastor their second church in the London area. It was at this local church that I think I was around 6 years old when we moved to London. So it was probably around 2 years after that, 2, 3 years that I began to. They got a piano at the church. Mom always had a piano at home anyway, but we had a piano at church, and I began to kind of knock on the piano, and from there I began to teach myself to play
Oh,
the piano.
oh,
And from there, mom, she was also very. I wouldn't say that. Again, she had a lot to do with us as children.
hmm,
I Mom saw a lot for Karen and myself, and for me, I think she saw that I had a gift in music, so she sent me to music school, and
oh,
I went to, at the time it was Trinity School of Music, and I went up to I think grade 5 theory as well as in practical, but I didn't like to play by notes. I can play by notes, but I hated the notes at the time, and I just wanted to play by ear.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And um, I would take my examinations, and this, I mean, it's quite, for me, it's quite unique because where music is concerned, for me, I think I've got a mind that I know what to play when I want to play it as far as the notes are concerned. So when it came to the examinations, and I had the piece of music in front of me to play right up until around grade 5. I never looked at the music piece. I didn't have to look at the music piece because everything was in my head.
Really,
Yeah, everything was in my mind. So I never really looked at the piece to play.
really.
Yeah,
That is interesting. That is interesting because notes are so unique.
yeah,
Notes are so unique, and for you to play from your head, play by ear the notes, and you get it right.
yes, yeah. I
Wow.
never, and I don't think I ever failed a music exam as far as the as far as the practical was concerned. I can't remember failed in the music exam. Now I wasn't everything else I failed. That's but when it came to music, I did excel in the
Oh,
music.
really?
Yes, I did excel. So I loved piano. I loved the keyboard. So that is what I concentrated on at the time. And then as we were growing as children, we started a musical group in the local church in London.
Mm-hmm.
The, the name of that local church was Tubbs Road. So I don't know if any of the listeners would remember the local church in London at the time. It was one of the main churches in England, really, and in the
Mm-hmm.
London area, put it that way. But in the local church, we formed a musical group called the We Spirituals, and
The we spiritual.
the We Spirituals,
All right. All right.
Spirituals, and I was the keyboard player at
All
the
right.
time. Now
Okay.
it was unique because there wasn't any children. Oh, let me see. Probably we were at the age of I was around 12. 12. So everybody in the band was around 11, 12, 13. So all the musicians and the singers, Karen was one of the main singers of the group, and other girls, her friends were also singers of the group. But I was the keyboard player at the time. Shortly after the group was formed, and we used to go around and playing, the bass player left and went to Jamaica.
Mm.
So that then transitioned me from the keyboards to the bass guitar.
Really?
Yes. And then that in and of itself is history. I'm not sure if you've heard of he is a very well-known worship leader. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Noel Robinson. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I'm not sure. The name sound a little bit like maybe I could, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Maybe the Robinson part of it could be. So
Yes.
I didn't know you were a musician. So you still play something now, or you left it out as you grew up older?
Well, as I grew from 13 upwards, and even when we moved to Jamaica, as you know very well, Dad was in Jamaica for 16 years, I think. I'm not sure. 10 of those years he was the island overseer for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands.
Right.
But while there, that again is where my bass guitar playing excelled again. I used to play with Grace Thrillers.
Oh, really?
Yes, it wasn't for a long time, but I did. I went on a few tours with them.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Gary Graham played with the Grace Drillers.
Yes.
You see, that's breaking news to me. That's breaking news. Wow. So that mean you're a good musician.
I don't know if that would say that I'm a good musician. I don't know.
I mean, when we evaluate the Grace Drillers back then, we know the Grace Drillers were top group, for a period for a long time, and if you're touring with them playing bass guitar,
Yes.
wow. No, in Jamaican term we say that mean you're not boxy, man. That mean you're not boxy at all.
Well, I did my best. I mean, I love the guitar so much. I'll tell you this, that in all my years of having a bass guitar, I never owned an amplifier. Never owned. No, I never owned that. Dad, at the time, I couldn't buy anything anyway. So Dad never thought that an amplifier was what I needed. But you know what? and probably Dad had a good reason for that. I don't wrong him for that. I don't hold that against him at all. The guitar, really, but the thing about it for me, and this is honestly, the guitar was so much a part of me. Whenever I held the guitar up against myself, against my body, I didn't have to have it amplified because I heard and I felt every note. Honestly.
Wow.
And I remember that I would practice my guitar once or twice. I don't know if Dad would remember, but once or twice where we lived up in the Russell Heights area there, I would practice all night. I would have a little stereo with my records, and because I like jazz, I like jazz funk,
Oh,
I I like soul.
wow.
And I don't know if it should be telecast that a pastor loves R&B and all them kind of things.
Listen,
But
music is life, man, and there is no crime in music. Okay, there's no crime in music. You know what the lyrics you put to it, maybe where the crime might come, but
yes,
and they said the pastor love reggae as well. So this pastor loves reggae because that's one of the best beat you can feel, that the reggae beat never let you go.
I mean, again, in relation to that, Elder, I mean, I used to play reggae. I mean, when at church, in conventions or at specific times for revivals or those kind of meetings, sometimes the songs would necessitate a reggae beat. But
Right.
you know what? I'm not a lover of reggae. I'm not a lover of reggae. I'll even now. I don't really. The only type of reggae I like is Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. The old time, because
Mhm.
when they sing, what they sang was about reality, where
Yeah,
they're coming from.
they used to sing. They
Yes,
used
yes,
to sing. But I'm just talking about the beat itself, and how it hold things together and doesn't let it go. But we appreciate it. But I'm learning something about you, because I never know you were a musician. I never know you were bass player, piano player. So did you grow away from them, or did you grow with them as you go older? Did you let go of music playing, or you still play?
at this present time in the local church, I do play keys. I play keys. The only reason why I do is because there's nobody else in the congregation who does play. I mean, I don't play every Sunday, and the reason why I do not play every Sunday, as I explained to the local church, is that I don't want anybody to come in who has the ability to play, and because I'm there, then they feel that, oh, pastor, or there's somebody there already playing. I
Mhm.
want, if anybody comes to the local church and they have the gift and the talent to play their music, and if they see that there is a need for that, then the piano is there. I don't want to stifle anybody. I don't want to tie their hands, so to speak, to say that, well, they cannot play. So every Sunday, there's some at least once or twice a month that I do not play at all. And sometimes my worship team is very upset with me because they want to hear the music. But I'm saying to them, you sing. Because I remember the times in my early days, Elder, when we went to church and we didn't have music. There was no music, just tambourine, and that was church.
That was church.
That was church. Sometimes we rely on these things, and because we rely so much on them, when we don't have them, we feel that we can't enjoy service. And that is further from the truth.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. All right. On the music side, now we get you. What was it like? What was it like? At what point Gary felt? At what point you got your personal experience with the Lord, other than just being told to go to church? At what time it became part of your life? How did you get your personal experience with the Lord, that you say, man, I'm not just going with mom and dad now. I am really in a relationship with Christ. At what age did that happen?
And to be truthful, I Um, Probably, I would say around the age of 7, 8. I can't I can't separate my my experiences with or explain my experiences without mentioning my mother. I can't do that because
Mhm.
my mother has always been there for me in a sense that she prayed for us. If there was ever a lady that I knew that prayed, and when I say prayed, I don't mean, as you know, with some West Indians, is the cow bawling and the Lord noise and all these things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who she would kneel with us. When we kneel, she would kneel.
Oh wow.
And I even thought about that. She taught us how to pray by how she prayed.
Mhm.
She taught me how to pray by how she prayed for us. She prayed for me. So that whenever I began to pray, then you know, I would I would hear my mother pray. Do you understand? So
Mhm.
at the age of probably about 7, 8 years old, around that, whenever she prayed, we would be in bed. She would tuck us in bed. She would kneel and she would pray for us. And at times I would cry. And my sister would say, "Why is Gary crying?" And mom would say, "Oh, he's feeling conviction." Now, little children then being told conviction, you don't really know much about
Much about
being.
that.
But then she would just leave it at that. She wouldn't force the issue. She wouldn't explain that either. She would just say, probably Gary's under conviction.
Wow.
Um, and so her prayer life really, I think, had a profound effect on, I would say, Karen and myself. And we really got to know the Lord, not so much through church, which we were very much involved in, but it was very much around the prayer life and the life of mom and of dad.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Um.
that's how, yeah, so that is how
So
I
go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, so that is how I think I was introduced at that early age. I would say it could have been a little later or a little younger, but I would say roughly around that age. Um, you know, our conviction and our life really began to be entwined with the Lord. At least I
So
would.
that's your entire life. Your entire life is there with the Lord. So that is a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm curious about, from an evaluation standpoint, as a young man, young boy growing up, his mother and father, they're in ministry, and he's growing up as a young Christian because you've been saved for a long time. How did it make you feel as the pastor's son versus, looking at other people, other boys, who their parents aren't the ministers or the pastor of the church? How did Gary weigh that? Did Gary see that as, I am privileged or I am pressured? How did you weigh that?
Man, I mean, there were times when you want to broke away.
I can't believe you said that.
No, I mean, as a child, I mean, you don't know. Obviously, you see you you see other young men or other boys. They're doing what you want to do, but you
Do-
can't. I mean, when you have a mother like our mother, I mean, one look, and if we miss mother's look, we've got a father who will look at us. One look from mom, that straighten everything up. You know.
oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I can't believe you use the word when you want to Brockway.
No, but I think, I mean, as a child, you want to be free. You want to run around. You want to play, and that's a
Right.
natural thing there. That's a natural tendency for children.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think I would be wrong. I think I would be very much wrong to say that, oh, it was like Dorothy skipping down the yellow brick road and everything was hunky dory, and the birds are singing and all of that. And I don't think that is a true picture of
Right.
my life.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. It just made me laugh to hear you say that because I haven't heard that word, that term in a long time when you are Brockway. And say you and then you broke and you broke out. You broke and broke out, right?
Yeah, I mean there was a term back in the day. I don't know if it's used these days, but there was a term to say that when one becomes a Lego beast,
No,
just
Lord of mercy. Yeah, wow, man. You you have those terms, man. You have those terms. Oh
well,
my God. Oh my. I would think the son of the bishop, the national overseer, would a little bit more sanctified than to use him the word Lego beast.
well, at the time, listen, there are some terms these days that if you use them, you have to wonder, what are you talking about?
Right,
If you
right.
use it back then, obviously it's not a nice term to use, but we use it. If you use it now, you can get a good laugh out of it. But
Exactly. And it's amusing now in reflection. It,
yes,
it is amusing now in reflection. All
yes,
right, all right. So you say from you were young, and everybody that I spoken to, and I know my own children would say the same thing. My own children said the same thing because all their lives we have been in church leadership and pastoral leading. So they would have the same kind of experiences. They want to be free. They want to do what others do. They didn't want to just be restricted and have to be in order all the time. So that is understood. All right, so tell me, as Gary grew up now, and my friends, I'm talking to Gary Graham. Gary Graham Senior. He has a junior, and he is the son of Bishop Lesmond Graham. And one of our favorite Jamaican national overseers for many, many, many years. And I was just thinking today the impact that man has had on my own life, and I cannot forget Les Graham. May God bless him. As you grow up, when did Gary decide what he wants to become?
okay. Well, at the age of just before we left England to go to Jamaica, because Dad and Mom, they were asked, as you know, they were asked or approached to go home and to pastor the church in Kingston, in St. Andrew, Maxwell Avenue. And when I remember the night when Dad, he shared that with us, and Karen and I were just, well, we didn't know the implications, obviously. So as children, we were just over the moon because we're leaving England as far as we're concerned, and we're going to see our grandparents who, when you are born overseas, you don't have that relationship
Hmm.
with grandparents as those who are born
Right,
in, let's say, Jamaica.
right, right.
So we were going into a new lifestyle, going to the Caribbean, and it was around that time. I believe for me, as a boy now, not knowing again much about ministry because Mom and Dad were involved in that. I saw it, I see it wherever they went, and they were very involved in the UK, up and down. Many times, um, we would leave school, go home. Mom would always say, "You need to rest, go and sleep, because we're going to Birmingham, or we're
Oh,
going, Bristol, or we're going to." So Mom and Dad were very. I don't know if anybody really knows how involved mom and dad were in the UK here before they went to Jamaica, but they were very, very, very involved. And to tell you the truth, they involved us. How? Because they took us wherever they went. They took us,
Mm-hmm.
and school was not an issue. I mean, these days we have parents who they're not even taking their child out to church Sunday evening because they have exam the following day or the child is doing this. So, but as far as mom and dad were concerned, which I also have done for our family as when they were small, wherever they went, we went. We went everywhere. So I think I've been and my sister Karen, we have been involved in ministry from a very early age. But at the same time, I did feel a call of God around the age of 13. I didn't understand it, but I do believe I felt that call. I spoke to mom about it. Mom is my go-to. She understood, but she would never force the issue. She would pray for me, and I believe that had a profound effect upon my life. And so from the age of 13 onwards, I wouldn't say that I felt a calling for pastor. I wouldn't say that. I just felt a call for the ministry. Whatever area of ministry that it was going to be developed. I felt that call, and I spoke to mom about it. And as the years have gone on, obviously, then it has it has developed until this.
So from that early teenage, you sensed that ministry was your call, and that's what you were going to pursue for the foreseen future.
I wouldn't say so because again, as a child growing up, there are other things that catches your attention. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an architect. You know, you want to be so many other things, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But then that was always in my mind. I later on in my life, because I was so again involved in music, I felt I wanted to go full time in music. I don't know if Dad would remember. I It's quite funny when I think about it, really. But I think it's something which I think families go through. The ups and downs of life, and sometimes when you look back at it, you see the funny thing of it. Even though while you're going through it, it can be very what can you say? It can be very tight. However, what I want to share is this. I remember when in Jamaica, and I was playing for I don't know if it was Grace Stewart at the time, and then there was another group. A very popular group. If you remember Dennis Haynes, I don't know if you remember Dennis Haynes.
I know Dennis Haynes.
He was a saxophone player, blind guy.
Right.
And he was exceptional. He was the business. I'm telling you. I mean, he was well ahead of his time, at least for music at that time. And I would play with them at times. I would go to their practices and such and play with them. But anyway, it was it was feeling that they wanted me, not that group, but it was feeling that I could probably go full time in music, get paid and all that stuff. When that got to the ear of mom and dad with me, they sat me down and they they quietly but firmly told me to stop the foolishness because I can't earn a living playing playing music. They firmly put that out of my head. Um,
I wonder. I wonder if those are the times when we used to hear Bishop Graham say, "I'm asking you all to pray for Gary." Yeah, I should pray for Gary.
Probably, I don't know. I can't say. But
Oh,
but yes, music was very much, I think, a part of what on the journey that I really wanted to get into. Because
how did that shift? How did that shift? How did the council change that?
how did the counseling change that?
Yeah,
It just changed it. I had to change it.
they just drive it when they say foolishness is in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it from drive it away from him.
My parents had a way with us. I think it's because again they loved us. They never. th- My parents, mom and dad, were never rough. You know, some rough people. You know,
Right,
rough.
right.
Our
I know.
parents were never rough with us. They were firm. They were firm with us, but they were never rough. We knew exactly what they meant when they spoke to us, and they spoke to us quite clearly. So anything that I think kind of caused them concern for them, just like for me with my kids. If I'm concerned about something, I will let them know how I feel about it because I've said to them, I don't. You'll never hear me say, "I wish I had said this," because I
Mm.
will say it. But then at the same time, the choice is theirs. So mom and dad were very. Mom would be very concerned because as far as she was concerned, I think she never said this. I'm not saying she said this at all. She never said this to me. But I believe, Elder, I really believe, and I would hold this belief until I die. I really believe that mom saw a higher calling on me, an ability on me that I did not see. And
Mhm.
sometimes parents see these things and the child doesn't see it. And depending on how you go about the counsel and and let's say you using the rod. The rod is not always the belt, but it can be words also. So depending on how strict and how you use the rod, you can not only drive the foolishness out of the child, but you can drive the child away from you.
Right, right, right. That is true. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Okay, my friends, I'm talking to Pastor Gary K. Graham, and you can hear the voice, you can hear the tone, and if you know Bishop Les Graham, you can hear a lot of Bishop Les Graham in this man. I'm gonna want to find out somewhere about some how did that how did discovery and that. But tell me what did you pursue after they drove the music out of you as a career? What did you turn to?
What did I turn to? Well, I always had the music there. I don't think they ever stopped me from playing the music
I mean,
because
I
they
mean, as a career, I said, this is what I'm going to pursue as my future.
I think ministry that has always um, been in my mind. I think in a very slow pace, in a very slow way, ministering has always been there. Has always
Okay,
it has
okay.
crept around. But ministry because I think during that time, if I'm not mistaken, during that time, it is before. I don't know if it's after because I went to the States. I don't know if you knew that.
You left from England to Jamaica to the United States.
Yes, and I
No, I,
stayed.
I I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yes. I studied in the States for roughly about 3.5, 4 years. I was there.
Okay, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes. So I'm trying to recollect now. You've touched a part of my brain that was dead and it's now
Oh
alive.
well. Oh, okay. All right. All right. The resurrection and the life is here. So let's get.
So I'm trying to remember here at what period. But I know that when I was in Jamaica, and it was around that time also that um, I was a. Well, let me go back a bit if you don't mind. You haven't asked me this, but let me just fill some gaps here,
Hmm.
just to make a point here. Because when I was in the States, and I suppose it always happened. It has always happened like this in various quarters. I was set forth in ministry. I was set forth in ministry in the States.
Oh really?
Yes, dad never set me forth really.
So you came to the United States to study,
Yes,
and you were
yes,
set forth in the ministry in the United States.
yes.
That's interesting.
And I'll tell you how that happened. Now, I used to go to a church in Cleveland. As you know, the headquarters for the
Right.
Church of God of
Right.
Mercy is in Cleveland. And I went to a local church, the Wildwood Avenue Church.
Mm-hmm.
That was when Bishop Larry Wilson was now gone on to be with the Lord. He was the
Yeah.
pastor there.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Now, when I was asked one Sunday night to preach at a WMB meeting, nobody has heard me preach there. Nobody knew I could preach. I didn't even know I could preach myself. But anyway, I was asked to preach, and when I preached, the following day he called and he asked me if I was a minister. I told him no. He was surprised, and the following Sunday he called a call meeting and set me forth as a
Really?
yeah.
So you were actually going to that church for a while.
The Wildwood Avenue Church, I was, yes,
Okay. Okay.
and I also during my not all of my stay there because I was at another local church when I initially got to Cleveland, but I was also under pastoral training and tutelage under Larry Wilson for the
Mm.
time that I was in Cleveland.
Oh, well, so that's like growing up at the feet of Gamaliel.
If you want to say that, you want to say that. I mean, Bishop Wilson really was a great,
he
was
was.
a
He was. 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 He
appreciate
was.
what he did. I appreciate that. I appreciate what he did for me. And he said,
Wow.
so when I got back to Jamaica now, Dad at the time now was the national overseer for Jamaica. And um, I went back as a minister. I went back as a minister, as a lay minister. I think it was as a lay minister. Now, when I got back to Jamaica, in as much I was there playing my bass and such, I also used to run a few, I think one or two revivals. I ran my first revival in Chapelton
Okay.
um,
Okay.
with Pastor Pearlie Richards. I don't know if you know her. She's gone on to be the Lord also, but she was also the pastor for the Chapelton town for the
Okay. Maybe I don't know her. Maybe.
church there. And I also preached down in, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was in Denby. There was something going on in one of the local churches there, and I preached there. But yes, I'm, yeah, I did cut my teeth a little bit in Jamaica.
That's interesting. I mean, I never run into you preaching anywhere. I never. You know, I did. I don't know. I didn't know you were a musician, and I mean, I didn't know Gary's story. I, I only heard the bishop and Sister Graham talk about their children, but I never kind of really. I maybe met you once or twice, but not really to have a relationship of a conversation. Like hi, that's Bishop's son, and that's from a distance, but not that close. And so I didn't know much about what you did, and etc., etc. So this is like really news breaking to me now. Musician, I never passed my mind. So hey, here we are. I'm talking to Gary, Pastor Gary, senior pastor of Leeds.
Yes.
Leeds up in England. All right. So you left from England. You went to Jamaica. You get excited about Jamaica. You went to United States to study, and then you went back to Jamaica as a lay minister and preaching around. So where did your life go now after that? Where did what? How did Gary's life? What direction did Gary's life turn? Or from a bigger picture now?
When when we returned to when I returned to Jamaica, when the year I did, which was in 80, the latter part of 83, 84, the plan was for me to go back to the States. But it was never really for me to stay in Jamaica. It was during the time, I'm sure you would remember also, when a lot of people were absconding to the United States. They would get the visa and they would go to Miami or New York, and they would just disappear.
Yeah. Just fall off the radar, right?
All of the So during that time, I had a lot of problems getting back there because the embassy in Kingston, they wanted me to give them details and property details and all type of things they wanted me, and Dad had to be writing letters saying, "Where is this boy here supposed to get property and job and money from when he hasn't got any of those things?" And it was just really very ridiculous, and they were turning me down left, right, and center. Even
Really?
though, yes, even though before I left the States at the time, I was allowed to go back. Now, it seems I was told that when I was going back, one of the officials at the airport took what was supposed to have been left in the passport out of the passport, and that's why I was having so much problem. Anyway,
Really?
yes,
What?
yeah, because
Wow.
if I had gone back that time, probably things would have been much different. I would have been there now. I would have been in probably some other state. So things that would have been different. It wouldn't be that I would be in England, really, to tell you the truth.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, it one of Dad's my parents um, daughters, I would say, parents, they grew up, they were very close to us. She was very close to the family. She was getting married, and Dad invited the family to come to the wedding. So Mom and Dad thought, okay, we'll send Gary. While Gary is there, Gary can go to the US Embassy and get his visa to go back to the States. So I was only coming to England to go to a wedding. And
Mm.
then after the wedding, then I would go on to the States and then do whatever I was planning or hoping to do. I got the visa, but I didn't go to the States. I decided to stay here in the UK.
So you went to England to get your feet back down on the soil, and then to go to the process of getting your visa to come back to the United States.
Right.
You got the visa and then decide to stay in England.
Yes.
So something big had to happen there. So what kind, in the Jamaican term, and I already use a few Jamaican terms. In Jamaican they say ants fall a fat, right?
Well, there was no fat here for this.
Yeah.
No, there was no fat here. I
There's
can
no.
I can say
Okay, so what was it? What was it that held you there? Because there had to be something that held you there.
no. Well, I wasn't. Um, I wasn't overall. or everybody wanted to go to America. As you know, even now to some extent, Jamaicans, because Miami is only an hour and a half away. Everybody wants to go there.
Mhm.
I was not an individual. I was not that sort of an individual. I know by that when you go to America, you can make it, but you have to work. And and sometimes, or I have found out really that television always gives a wrong picture of what America is like. Television
Mhm.
doesn't give a true picture, and many people watching television think that, well, if they go to America, they can get this, they can attain to
It's
that.
like it's a bed of roses, right?
Right, right. So I was not one really um, eager to get to America. So I just stayed in England. I just decided to stay there and to try and make life here. So I stayed in London. I was in London there for around 2 years from '84. The middle of '84 came to came to London, and then '86 I returned home and got married to Danette.
Okay, so you got back there and you found what you've been looking for.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
All right. Okay. So tell me about okay, welcome back home. I'm back in my home where my born land, etc., etc. So here I'm settling back down, back into coming back as a lay minister, or did you get licensed by then, or you were still a lay minister about that time?
I was, one of them chickens there that lay but can't stop laying and it won't hatch. I I've got a few I've got a few I've got experience with that. I have experience with that. I just like to say though, again, just to address a point that you made, in
Hmm.
that mom and dad were never one really to brag about us or to talk much, if you understand, about Gary, kind of, or Karen.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think we were that type of family. Mom and dad wanted very much so. I think for us to have our feet firmly on the ground, at least mom was one that kind of held us together, really. And so, and so, I think with all of the ups and downs that we've had along the way, and even in church, at least coming to England, being a lay minister in the church. I was a lay minister for a very long time. I could say much about that. I think, Elder, I think that sometimes your name can be a hindrance, and that's me. I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
saying
for your name should be an opportunity, not an hindrance. It should be like, okay, that's the guy. We know his roots, we know his father, mother. Hey, listen, man, he's a chip off this block. Hey, we could invest in him because we know his roots.
sometimes it's so, but you know what? I took that as a learning curve for me. Seriously, I did. Over the many years that we were here, and I'll share this with you and with your listeners. And I think that there's a lesson there for everyone and for those who are aspiring for leadership. Many times, mom would call, mom would call. I can't count the times where my mother would call us. How are you doing? How is everything? Is everything okay? How are things going? How is church? She wouldn't say, how's your ministry? No, she wouldn't say that. But she's trying to get a feeling of what am I doing? And many times now that is not in position now. So I think I can say this. It's not anything bad anyway, but many times in the conversations that mom had with me, she would say to me, "Come home. There's work. There's work to be done. There's work to be done, ma'am." And she would turn to dad, and she would say to dad, and I could hear dad. She would turn to dad, and she would say, "There's work here for Gary, isn't it?" And dad would say, "Uh huh." Daddy wouldn't. Daddy wouldn't. I think he was always measured in what he says.
Always, we know him for that. We know him for that. Yeah. He's a very thoughtful man.
Yes, yes.
And my thinking that and just me thinking here out loud, that he maybe didn't want to make it look like he's taking control of the system to bring his son in, and want to stop them out of the gainsayers. I would imagine.
That is that's my answer. That is what I would say. And I understand that. I understand that. And I'm glad that he didn't do it, to tell you the truth. I'm glad that my father never did that. Because in my conversations with mom each time, and even with dad, every now and again, I would have said to them on the phone, "No, I want the Lord. I want the Lord to make the opportunity, to open the door. I don't want to come home and to get anything because of."
Mm-hmm. I get you. I get you.
I've always maintained that. I've always
Mm-hmm.
maintained. I know who my mother and my father is. I know who they were. I know the respect that people had for them. I know the positions that my father and my mother had. Because my father would always say and would always put out there that the positions he has, my mother is there with him. So, that it was the both of them. I knew who his father was, and many people, um, know where that family line is. I'm not going to say, you can mention that, but I'm not going to say. Plus, at the same time, my mother's parents, they were bishops in the church in St. Catherine. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people probably wouldn't know that either. So for me, in as a fact, I don't have to shout. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to wave my hands and go on as if I'm an idiot. Yeah. I know my heritage. I know where I'm coming from. I know who my parents and foreparents are and what they were, and
Mm-hmm.
use them in the church, in the ministry. They were bishops. They were also parish overseers and such. So when my mother, in her concern for her son, because I believe that she saw the call,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she didn't want that call. She saw it further than being a musician. She didn't want that call to go to waste.
Mm-hmm.
So she was very concerned about my involvement in the ministry, being the man, being the individual that I should be. She didn't want my life to just go by and my call is not being activated. So she was very concerned, and it's not just once or twice. She tried to, um, she tried to say to me, "Come home." Twice. Well, let me be safe to say twice. She said, "Gary, come home."
And
and
you
right,
did.
and I didn't. And right now we could be in Jamaica. I don't know what we would be doing there. I'm not saying that we would be anywhere. I'm just saying we would have been in Jamaica right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my answer to mom and my answer to dad was, and this is before. Listen to this now. This is before dad and mom came back to the UK, as you know, to be the overseer for England, France, and Belgium.
Yeah,
So
man. Boy, they've been in it for they moved around too, man.
they have, they have.
Wow.
So mom, even and I'm going to say this. I mean, even by the fact, because when before they came, I was still a lay minister. You know, can you imagine? I was still a lay minister,
So you've been laying for how many years? You must have got a lot of chickens up in England then.
and they haven't hatched yet. They're still eggs.
So how many years did you have you as lay minister?
From 1981, 82, I was a lay minister. From that to 1990, because that came to the UK in 92. So when he came, I was still a lay minister. I wasn't pastoring at the time. I was active because I would always find something to do because of the way how mom and dad, they involved us in things, and we were always doing something. I was always doing something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was always doing something. I was always active. I couldn't stay in a local church frustrated. I'm not saying that I would never be frustrated, but I believe that at the right time, God would do something for me.
So what were you doing? What were you doing then as uh, a way of making a living? What were you doing back when you went back to England, still a lay minister, not pastoring, not playing music? Did you go back into music, or what were you doing during that time?
It would seem, it would seem that coming back to England and you know, got married, came back to the UK, settled down in '86. Then started kind of having a family. My music, it went to non-existent really, sadly, because I wasn't really um, I wasn't really playing. You know, they wouldn't ask me to play. Sometimes that it's sad. It's sad. It's sad.
Wow.
There's something that happens in life
Wow.
that you just have to look at it and just shake your head, or
Wow.
you just have to give a no.
Wow. 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 Wow.
And
Whew.
because I experienced it in Jamaica. There was but at least I could handle the situation because there were times going around Jamaica to the various parishes. I would playing groups, playing churches. So I was fluid in Jamaica, and even in America. I mean, I played in one or two bands there. Um, I wasn't um, an avid or active session musician, but even I know that the church at the time I had a studio, at the church studio in Cleveland there. So every now and again, once in a while, I would play. But I mean, to me, I think I crafted or perfected my bass playing craft in America.
Mm.
That really helped me, and especially with the jazz and the jazz funk that was very prolific during that time. And I mean, my favorite band, and I don't want anybody to crucify me. I'm not ready to go yet, but my favorite band to listen to, and I went out and bought their record and everything, was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Earth,
So,
wind, and fire. All right. All right. All
so
right.
I listened to groups like that, Brothers Johnson, Michael Jackson, all of these groups, all of these players. Didn't buy them because of the songs, but
Right.
the
For the
musicians.
for the music, yeah, and that's okay.
I
We're
listened.
not so sanctified that we can't listen to good music and learn from good music. Sometimes I think when we were much younger, we were so sanctified and so boxed in that that you walk on this narrow line that you can't veer to the right or to the left because it's abominable, and we all understand that. So tell me, Pastor Gary, what how did you discover this lady that give me a little bit insight into this lady that you got married to back in England? How did that happen? Who saw who, and how did that happen?
Well, she didn't come to England until I brought her here. So I saw her and I met her in Jamaica.
Oh, is it Jamaica? Oh, Jamaica. Okay.
She
Oh.
is she is or she was the daughter and is the daughter. I don't know which part of the English I should use there. Of Bishop Mattis. If you know Stanley Mattis and Olive Mattis.
Oh. Oh.
Right.
Okay. 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 Oh, excuse me. I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I know Stanley Mattis quite well. I know Stanley Mattis quite well. Oh, very well.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you actually found her in Jamaica and took her to England.
Yes, I met her. I think it was during BTI. Was not always BTI how the way BTI is supposed to be, but I met her. But I met her in I would met her. BTI was the social media.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. You're right. BTI where young people hang out, right? They come for Bible Training Institute, but they find other thing, the institute, other things there.
Yeah, but
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
and even going with dad to St. Anne parish conventions, to race there
Okay,
and
so
all.
you were traveling with the bishop for ministry, but you were fishing.
Well, I don't know about the fishing. I don't know if I can't tell you about the fishing. I can't tell you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I met Danet in Jamaica. I met Danet in
Okay. 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 All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Oh my goodness, my friends! I'm talking to Pastor Gary Graham, and you when you know by now, you might just listen by how he laughs, and if you close your eyes when he laughs, you will think that was Bishop Les Graham laughing. You would think that is Bishop Les Graham laughing. That tone and that expression is just like 100% Les Graham. Um, so tell me about the traits. I just don't know, tell me about the traits of your father, because you've had so much of your father's traits in terms of your presentation, in terms of your body language, your facial expression, your tone. Tell me something about what have you heard about that, and what have your father have you seen in yourself?
Let me start this by saying that sometimes when I go and look in the bathroom, when I go and look in the mirror, sometimes when I like at that quick glimpse, I have to say, "Hold on, what are you doing here?"
You,
Because
you,
I see him looking at me, and I sometimes have to say, no, 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 you're not supposed to be here.
you know.
Uh, no,
Wow. So if he well, it's a good thing that he's still alive, because if he wasn't alive, you would think it's a ghost like Peter, right?
well, yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's a difficult question. That's a difficult
I'm sure
question.
you can. I'm sure you can answer that, because no, you don't just develop that by yourself. It's something that is in your DNA, in your very genetic makeup. So, but I have not. I It's very rare. Let me I say, it's very rare that you see so much of a father in a son. I mean, there's so much things in common, that even the tone of voice, the way you laugh. I mean, it's just like there's so much of Les Graham that I hear and see in you. That is crazy. Your facial, your expression, the very serious, same calm demeanor, half a laugh in between. It's
I
amazing.
can't, Elder. I think that, listen, I love my father to bits. I love him. I love my mother because at particular times of my life, I think as a as a son, as a boy developing into manhood, she would always, and probably dad would know, because again, dad was always busy going here, doing that, having to address this and that. But mom would always say to me, "Look at dad, look at him, look at him." Um, would speak much of him to me. If there was anything that I needed to do or I was going to do, or she would always put me in front or put him in front of me. And I think that because of that, that had a lot. I mean, that has so much so that I don't even know. I don't study that. I'm not studying him. I'm not studying him. I'm not looking to copy his mannerisms. I'm not a good ventriloquist, if that's it, to pattern people's voices and such. I don't do that. But I'm humbled. I'm humbled. I feel contrite, if I can say that, because I know what people think of my father and the high esteem that people hold of him, speak of him, and for people to look at me and to say things, I don't want to let him down. It's very difficult, really. It's very, very difficult because it puts a kind of pressure on me. Not that they've done it, no, but it puts a pressure on me that I have to try. I'm imperfect. I will fail, and I know I failed many times, but it puts a pressure on me to live a life. And once I live it for the Lord, because that is what mom and dad did. They tried to please the Lord in everything, and that's what I'm trying to do, Elder. I'm trying to.
They're great examples. They have conducted themselves of the highest level of discipline and principle, and we have all come to love and love them, love them, love them. I mean, just love them both. From the time that they served us in Jamaica, and even after their service, they're last in our memories. They're last in our memories while they were there. And as I said, my life today is what it is because of Bishop Les Graham, and that's another story that I will tell on another time. I kind of reminded him when I had him on my program a couple of years ago. I reminded him the impact that he personally had on my life directly, not from a group setting, but a one-on-one setting. One of these days I will tell you about, maybe talk about that impact. But this is your program, not my program. Not This is you on my program, not me on your program. So also, one of these days, my friends, I'm talking to Pastor Gary Graham, and of course, I'm gonna give him a chance to get a drink of water, and then when we come back, he's gonna give me the story about his ministry. Now he got into ministry finally. How did the breakthrough come? How did the licensing come? How did he get off the nest and stop laying and now begin to produce chicken? So when we when we come back. When we come back, I will continue the conversation. I'm going to give him a chance to get a drink of water. I come back, I will continue the conversation with Brother Gary. Stay with me, my friends. This is the book they've been talking about. The 7 churches of Asia Minor, or the 7 churches in Revelation. If you want to know about the letters that Jesus sent to these churches, you got to get yourself a copy of this book. Scan the QR code to get an ebook or a paperback, and then you can find out a lot more about these churches and the letters Jesus sent to them.
ORB Ministries presents Truth Matters. Join the Truth Matters panel for discussion on issues of the times with host Dr. Orville Beckford Sr. and his panel consisting of Bishop Ishmael Charles, Reverend Joycelyn Barnett, Minister Ava Samuels, Minister Kevin Johnson, Dr. Danette Ming, Bishop Anthony Campbell, and Pastor Shelley Antoni. Nothing is off limits for discussion. Follow ORB Ministries on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And be ready for the next hot topic on Truth Matters.
Wednesday, 8 p.m. Join ORB Ministries on Let's Talk with the Doc. Live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. There is a story, something to encourage and inspire you. You may even have a life-changing experience. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. Stay connected. Subscribe to ORB Ministries YouTube channel. Follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right, my friends, I'm back with Pastor Gary Graham, the man, the offspring of Bishop Lesmond Graham and Viola Graham, two of the matriarchs and of Jamaica, those people that we honored, loved, and honored in Jamaica. We're gonna hear at the end of the program how things are going with his mom, which is not so good right now, and we're praying for the strength of Bishop as he deals with the health of his wife and Gary's mother. But before we get to that in the wrapping up, tell us about how did your breakthrough come, Pastor? How did it happen? Finally, how did this happen, and who decided to say, okay, we can't have him laying any longer?
Well, again, my mother and my father were there for us. When they came to the UK here to be the overseers for England, France, and Belgium. They were here for 8 years, I believe. They left just around the year 2000. It was at least two to 4 years before they left. Probably it was 2 years, let me say, or 2 or 3 years. That I was set forth. I was licensed. My father licensed me.
So your daddy had to come back to England to do it.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
So what was the setting like in England that you've been there for so long? What ran through your mind? What ran through your mind why you have been ignored or not been recognized or are left behind? What did you think it's anything of jealousy, anything is of status, anything of maybe too much recognition? What do you think? Because sometimes people hold you down because they think, hey, you got too much of a well-known name, and how did you assess or evaluate what might be the driving force behind that?
Elder, I would just like to say I prefer not to say anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I got message received. Message received.
I will hold my opinions to myself.
Okay. Message received. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So Bishop came back, and now before he leaves, he set you forth. And what happened?
Well, I was at the time again. I was asked to go to a small church. It was a very small church that we went to. He asked me to stand, to stand alongside. There was another minister there. She was thinking of stepping down, and when Dad told her that he was sending me there, or sending us there, my wife and my family there, she did it in open arms because again, my parents and her, this particular minister, they had history. They had served together for many years, even before Dad went to Jamaica in the first down in '76. So when I went to the church, she took me aside and she said, Gary, because she knew me anyway. She knew us. She said, Gary, I'm stepping down. You're the pastor for the church. You do what you feel is necessary to be done. You pastor. I will stay alongside you, but you're the pastor. So I took over the pastorate of that church I think it was for 2 years. Small church. At the best of times, it was just 2 families there. My family, which at the time was Danet, myself, and I think it was we had about 1, and our second child was to be born, I believe. Yeah, the second one or the third one was to be born. So we were there. And so it was my family and another family which consisted of, again, 5, a family of 5. It wasn't a big church. It was a large church, or when I say a large church, it was...
A large building.
Well, the building was there. It was there. It was paid off for. But again, just like church life goes up and down, it was a very vibrant church sometime before, but as things go, the ministry kind of went flat for them. And when we got there was hardly anything going on there, really. So Dad and Mom, they said, if we go there. So I don't really mind, my church, my local church is my family anyway. So I take them with me. I preach at them at home. And when I go to church, I preach again at them. So they knew who the preacher was. And they the one who was going to preach Sunday morning because they got it from one Sunday to the next.
So they're getting double dose.
Double dose. But it was a great time, I think, for me. And when I went in, honestly, Brother Beckford, when I went in, I said this to Mom. It was like a hand to a glove. I never felt so more at ease and so stable than in anything I have ever done.
Wow.
No, I mean, pastoring for me, Elder, since that time, well, from the time that I was at Wildwood, and when I was running around with Bishop Wilson at the time and doing particular things, even though, again, I wasn't the pastor, but it flowed for me. There was no effort. It wasn't an effort. It just flowed. And I think he recognized that. It's only a pity that I didn't get to work with him even more. And then he got ill, as you know, and he died. He went to California, wasn't he? Because he was state overseer for California. So, we lost connection and such. But when Dad and when Mom thought that it would be good for us to go to it was a little church in Willenhall in the West Midlands. I felt so at home. I couldn't have felt better. Wow. It was not an issue. It was not an issue. And we had some great times. We stayed there for 2 years, I believe. Let me just say 2 years. It could have been a little longer. And then just before Dad left, he appointed us. He moved us from there to a church a couple of miles away from that local church in a little town or city called Bilston, which, again, it had its own building. It had a nice little plot of land with it. And the local church was a little bit bigger, a little larger. So we had more people to deal with. And again, it wasn't an issue for me. I think we had some great times there. The church responded to us. The church grew with all of the problems that comes with local churches. And there's no perfect church anywhere.
Yeah.
Every church has its own little issues.
Yeah.
But thank the Lord, God really helped us. He really helped us. And I've from there had little issues there and little problems within such. But we moved around. We've from that we've pastored a few other little congregations in and around the city of Birmingham. And to tell you the truth, I probably am one of the very few in the UK, in the Church of God of Prophecy, I would say, that has had the opportunities to pastor in other organizations also.
Really?
There were two other organizations that whenever they wanted to use me, I always asked them to write my overseer, to ask permission. And he did so. There was no problem. I never just went off and did what I did without him knowing. I always kept in touch with him, who was then the overseer. And I went, I served, I did what I could there. And then where we are today, with September coming, will be 5 years, Elder, we've been here. It is a lovely church. It is a bigger church. It was, just to give a little history to this local setting. It was the district church at one point. It was in charge of other. The pastor that was here was also the regional overseer that passed or in charge of 8 other local churches in the area. But over the years, he moved on, and the overseer here at the time, because of the transitions that was happening, that district position was then moved to another local setting, and the regional overseer for this area is now in a church. He's now pastoring church, I think, some 60 miles away. Wow. Very nice individual, very nice minister. But it's about a rebuilding of the local church here. And we have a membership of roughly, say, about 55, 60 here, and it's growing. And again, I wouldn't want to change my parents. Again, I have to revert back to this. My parents always said to me, and continues to say to me, the work is within the local church. The work is within the local church. The work of the overseer, whether it be again probably the regional or even a country presbyter, an international presbyter or regional presbyter, that is administrative. That's office work.
Right.
And they have always said this to me, that that's not the work to some extent. It's part of the work. But the work of the church is the local church. And I don't desire anything else. A lot of people over the years, and I appreciate it. I do appreciate the sentiments and the encouragements, of individuals saying, no, just like what you're saying. I don't like to dwell on it. I think of it, but, saying that I could do more, I could be more involved by. And when they say things like that, you know what they're saying. You know what they're saying. They don't have to spill it out. But I don't desire anything. I don't desire anything than what I'm doing now, because I'm doing something now. I'm touching hearts. I'm touching lives.
And that's what really matters. That's what really matters. And if your heart is at ease and you're happy about what you're doing, then that's where you're at your best, because you're comfortable.
Yes.
and you're happy about doing what you're doing there. So that's good. Nothing better than feeling at ease and feeling comfortable in what you do.
Because also, let me just say something here. Now, I know in America, and you're there, and you could even substantiate what I'm going to say. There are some people who drive hundreds of miles to church. Now for us, in our first year, and I would even say probably for the first year and a half, where we live, which is Birmingham, that's where the family home is, and where the local church is 120 miles one way.
Say that again.
Where the family home is,
Uh-huh.
and where the local church that we are pastoring is 120 miles away.
You talking about right now? Right now, where you live and pastoring right now?
Well, let me clarify something, right? Let me finish, all right?
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. The family home is still in Birmingham, but I wanted to make the point. I wanted to make the point that in the first year, and probably in the first year and a half of us, and it could be longer, but I want to be very conservative. I don't want to embellish anything, but I just want to bring home a picture of what the sacrifices that Danette and myself, I would say, because it's both of us that is in ministry, and the children. Almost every Sunday, and I would be traveling the motorways every day. I would leave home on Sunday, come to Leeds, have church, preach, and after church, travel back 120 miles. On Wednesdays, I would go 120 miles to and 120 miles back. On Friday, I would travel 120 miles to and 120 miles back. And on Sunday, I would make the same distance. And we have not complained. And I've told it, that to me, that is sacrifice. And it's great sacrifice for my wife, because she could easily stop and say, I'm not going anywhere.
Oops. So you're doing an average of 1,000 miles a week.
Well, if that's what it comes up to, yes.
Just an average of 1,000 miles a week to serve.
I tell you this, every year in the UK we have something called MOT, and every car over the age of 3 years old, if it doesn't pass the MOT, then it can't be on the road, or you have to, if you can't fix it, you have to take it off and go and buy something else. But thank the Lord, God has given us a car that can take the mileage. And I checked it out last year, that in 1 year we did 28,000 miles in 1 year.
Wow.
So ministry for me, I'm going to bring it down to me, but also to my family. Ministry for us is ministry. And there's to me, I can safely say, I don't think there's any minister in the UK that does that kind of mileage anyway. And when when the overseer told us about, said that he thought of us going to Leeds, and he says, what's your pleasure? I say, listen, I'm there already. He hadn't appointed me as yet, but I told him that I'm ready.
Wow.
And
God bless you, my friend.
And the Lord has blessed. He's blessed us in giving us health and strength. The money, I'm not saying that the money is there, but God has provided. He has provided. At this moment in time, we're not doing as many miles as we used to, because we have sourced a dwelling place here in Leeds, so we don't really need to do that type of mileage. But then that's how the Lord provides. And I believe, you see, again, and I always say this, Elder, always say this, I will never leave this out. Doesn't matter whether my parents are here or not, but they taught me, and not only taught me by words, but they taught me by what they did, that God will provide, God will protect, God will keep by what they did. And I told my overseer that. I said that, my parents, as I said, that you know them very well. And his father worked with my parents. So You know, I'm not, as the Jamaicans would say, I'm a poor around here. Yeah, I'm you know, I know what's going on. I know. I am 61 years old. I'm not a boy in short pants anymore. But I'm not old enough that I cannot learn. But
Wow.
this is my life. I know nothing else. I know nothing. I can't tell anybody that I know anything else. I can't. I know nothing else but ministry, but serving the Lord and doing what I can. And I'm sure I can also speak on behalf of my sister that she knows nothing else.
Wow.
But God.
Wow.
But God and the service of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Wow. How many children you have?
The Lord gave me 4, and I don't want no more. Yeah, 3 girls and 1 boy. Renee, and Gary Jr.
The Lord give me 4 and I don't want no more. At least you double up your dad, so that's good enough.
Well, the Lord has blessed us with 4.
Oh my God!
Our youngest daughter Michelle, she got married 2 years ago, and she had a daughter who is 1 year, and in March gone. I hope I'm never one to get dates and months right at all. I don't even get my date proper. My birthday. March gone. She had twins. She had twin boys. Twin boys.
So, she's doubling up.
Oh yes, she's doing a quick work in a short time.
Get it over and done with, right? Get it.
Yes, thank the Lord for that.
Sure, it is a Shomali commotion 2 by 2.
Yes. And
oh my God! I listen, man. I'm just happy to talk to you tonight. It's just interesting just to have this conversation with you. For the first time, I am having a conversation with you, and this is hearing the journey of the story. Fascinating. May God give you the strength you need to keep on doing well, and I wish you progress at your local church. I don't know. I don't know if I ever come back to England again. I've been there twice. I don't know if I ever get back to England, but if I ever do, I would definitely want to come to see you if I do get back to England. But England is big, and the locations are different from each other. So you might get to one place and never get to the other place. So who knows? But I just see Pastor Colin Powell giving you a shout out there, calling you a good old friend. So I guess you must know Colin Powell.
Well, I tell you what. Some years back, when I was pastoring in the West Midlands area, and Colin contacted me because I didn't know that we went to college together, and I did not know that Colin had gone into ministry. We had lost contact altogether, and Colin reached out to me, and he invited me to Boston, and I remember that he got me to preach. I preached the whole week, Monday to Friday. I had Saturday off and preached the Sunday, and came back to the UK the Monday. But we had a time, and the thing about he took a chance on me because he hadn't heard me preach either.
Oh yeah.
So he's a great friend. Every now and again we do touch base. I know that his wife, her parents, I don't know if they're still alive. They used to go to the church, not too in the city of Sheffield. I know they've got connections in Sheffield. I'm not sure if they're still around. I don't know, but I know that his wife had connections here, but we've kind of again lost that. But he's a great man. He's a great friend.
He's my great friend as well. He's my great friend. So I see somebody here giving you a shout out. She hadn't seen it for your name, Claudette Page. So you're making somebody getting friend renewal here online here right now. So And the
Yes.
Clarendonians are giving you a shout out here, so we're good to see that.
That's great. That's great. And I appreciate you, Elder, and I appreciate what you've done for and what you've said. I know in the past you have said, and even now of my parents and of dad and of mom. And I just like to interject here that mom isn't well. Mom is not very well. She I would say, if I'm not stepping on toes here, but I would say she's very ill. She's gravely ill,
Gravely Hill, yeah,
and
oh,
we just need to pray that God's will be done. That's all. That's all we need.
right,
Well, that's what
right,
we're praying
right.
for. I may
I,
have to very soon. I may have to very soon make a trip to Florida because that's where they are. May I have to go there just to. I don't know. I don't want to say the inevitable or whatever, but yeah,
not
we
making
just
any prediction or any conclusion, but facing life realistically as well.
yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, Ed, I really want the folks out there. A lot of you know that. A lot of you know that. A lot of you have been blessed.
Oh yes, we know Les Graham. We know Bishop Les Graham. We know him. Those of us who've been around for a while, we know him so well. Love and appreciate, respect that man. Just yeah.
I'm making an appeal here. I want all of you out there that have churches like yourself, Elder. I want you on Sunday, if nothing changes, just to offer a word of prayer for my parents. Just pray. That's all I'm asking. I'm not
Okay,
asking. I'm not
we def-
asking. I'm not asking you to send a seed offering like what many many would ask for. No, I'm not. I'm just asking for all the churches that hear this, the ministers, the pastors. I want the state overseers. I know that they're listening. I know you're out there. I want you on this particular Sunday, if the Lord lends breath and gives mom a little bit more time, and for dad, just to name them in a special prayer. I'm just asking you, just to do that.
So we are taking note of that. Everybody online with us, please take it on your note. I mean, start praying from now, and
No,
then you can do an open prayer for Bishop Les Graham and Sister Viola Graham. That God would have His way in their lives, and He knows best what to do and how to do, when to do, and why to do. That He will give grace and strength to the family in the way that He knows best to do, because He knows more than we can. He doesn't need our instruction, but we just make our request known to Him. And
amen.
so we trust Him for His wisdom and His grace in these difficult times, and for the children and the grandchildren and the extended families, that God would give them the strength, the grace, and the wisdom and the comfort that they need to provide for Sister Viola the best comfort and care
Okay.
that she deserves, and that He will embrace Bishop Les Graham and hold him in His arms as well in this difficult time of uncertainties.
Amen.
And so thank you so, my friends. I appreciate it. Elder, I am so glad to have you on my program with me tonight. I'm glad to get to know some of your story. Those things I've never known. As I said, I've heard Bishop Graham. I heard your dad say time and again, please pray for Gary. Please pray for Gary. He didn't give us details. He didn't give us details on what to pray for Gary for, but I know that he never stopped asking for Gary. Not as much for Karen as he said for Gary. So maybe Gary was the issue for some reason.
Probably I was getting up to no good. That's why he was. I've never been a wayward guy. I don't think I've ever been a wayward guy. There may have been times of concern that may have happened, just like with anybody's
Well,
life.
maybe just for further direction, and that your goals and your dreams, your aspirations, that will come to reality. Nobody who knows what he never give us detail and tell us, but just a prepare for Gary. So, and we always know that. So, man, it's been a pleasure to have you. I am so happy to have you joining me tonight. Anything that you want to say that I didn't ask you, and you want to wrap up with your final thoughts? By the way, brother Gary, does a live program on Facebook? Is that a daily program you do every morning?
Every day that God sent. I every day that God gives me breath, I have to do something. No, I have to. I feel that a day cannot go by unless I do something. And I've only begun to do it, I think, just as COVID and the lockdown started. And how it started was, it was just for me to keep in touch with the local church. It was just so the local church could see me, could hear me, we could connect and such. And Elder, it just took off from there. So what I then began to do, I'm doing a very unorthodox, I call it an unorthodox study, in that I started at the book of John, St. John, and I went all the way through to Revelation. Then when I finished Revelation, I then started in Zechariah, and I went to Malachi, and then I went down to Daniel, I believe it was. And because I started Daniel, I did Joel also. There's a few other books, Joel, Haggai, and such. But because I did Daniel, and Daniel referred to Jeremiah, I am now going through the book of Jeremiah. Wow. So I've just more or less finished Jeremiah chapter. Well, I'm doing Jeremiah chapter 23, and I'm on the 26th verse. So I haven't even touched Genesis yet. So I've got another 26 years.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. At the pace you're going, you got maybe 30 more years before you finish what you're doing. But my friends, interesting, because his program started as a result of COVID. I was telling him that this program started because of, well, not because of, but maybe say because I was doing my residency in chaplaincy, and when COVID broke in 2020, I started from 2019, 20, and then COVID hit, and I graduated August in 2020, and after that I decided to start this program to communicate with doctors and nurses and teachers and students, based on my experience in the hospital, and so to find out how people are coping, and the hybrid and remote learning and all of that stuff. I decided to talk to teachers and students, and it spiraled to where it is now, as a result of that. So this going into 4 years since I started this program. I can't believe it's 4 years coming up already. Wow. Yes. But Pastor Gary is a good teacher. He's a good teacher. I listen sometimes. He's a very detailed guy. He has a good analytical mind. He good point of references. So if you want to spend some time and journey with him, get your long coffee cup and take your time, because
some people think I should just do it in 15 minutes. They give me a 15-minute thing, and I say to myself, I don't know about that. I can't. I find it difficult to. I mean, when I preach here, is 1 hour I take, so I don't. So I don't know really. But when you get it, as you know so very well, Elder, when you get into the Word and you begin to dig out certain things, and certain things come to your attention, you can't leave it.
There is so much in the Word. And all you have to do is just speak the Word, because it is so profound, and it is so amazing and enlightening and illuminating, that when you begin to discover it, you realize that this is not by chance or by mistake or happenstance. This is divine inspiration, that God structured this for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, so when you get into it and find out, oh my God, look how these tie together, it's like, say, wow, what an awesome God.
I appreciate what you've just done for me in advertising that. I'd really like to know that there is so much foolishness that people are following, and they get hundreds and hundreds of
thousands of likes and comments and all of that stuff. And
what you and I do, we hardly get Okay.
very little, very little, very little, because that's not where people's interests are.
Yes.
But thanks for those who join us, Ian. If I is that Ian Aniki? Thank you for joining on your comments. We appreciate it. And I have some people who have always come to my program, always watched, and always contributed. Look forward to my guests, because there's always this inspiration and getting to know people's story and getting to journey with people in their painful moments, their highs and their lows. And that's what's fascinating about me doing this program, because getting to know people's story. I remember when I started this program and started to speak to your dad and Bishop Sam and a couple of these senior ministers. Somebody said to me that, boy, these great people, we've never heard their stories, and nobody has a record. They only know them as preachers, preaching, 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 but nobody has anything about them and
Right.
their own story. I remember Bishop Sam passed away that not too long ago. One of his family member, actually went to find the program that I had with Bishop Sam to
Mm,
find out information about
mm,
him to write his obituary.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Somebody went to went to my program that he was on, and
Yes.
get to find out some more things about him to put it as part of his obituary. So, and those are the reasons that I'm so motivated and inspired to do this program, because we put it on the record. We put it on the record from the mouths of those who I speak with. So that's what they say. That is as autobiographical as it can get, because that's the mouth of the man or the woman speaking here. This is not hearsay. This is what we hear from them directly. And because of that, I enjoy doing this program. And if you are listening and you have a story and you like to share your story, hey, listen, email me, direct message me. Maybe we could have your story on my program as well. That's what we do. I don't do it every day like Pastor Gary, like 7 days a week. He doesn't have a Sabbath. He does not have, he doesn't have a Sabbath. He takes no rest. He goes,
I really can't. It's in me. Jeremiah is like fire shut up in his bones.
also see that, just if you he's on Facebook. Somebody that's what's the name of his program. He's on Facebook. Looks for Gary Graham, right?
Yes.
Look
Yes.
for Gary Graham on Facebook. And if you once you see his profile picture, you won't miss him. You'll know him. Look at him. You see his profile picture. There may be other Gary Grahams there, but you see this one, you won't miss him. He's a good teacher. He's a good teacher. I'm gonna tell you, he's a good teacher. He's a good teacher. I'm telling you that he's a good teacher. So you'll have some time to listen to him, journey with him, and give him some likes and shares, and make his program grow, and be inspired by it.
I would appreciate that. I mean, I'm also on YouTube. If you put my name in again, I'm on.
You're on YouTube as well.
Yes, yes,
Okay, so
and
if you don't, go ahead.
and on X or Twitter, formerly known
Oh,
as.
okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. So right now, so he's all over the place. So right now, I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and I'm streaming on Twitter as well. Three
Okay,
platforms I'm going live right now. So, and I am on TikTok as well. Not this one, but you can check ORB Ministries. ORB Ministries on TikTok. We are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. Our ORB Ministries everywhere that we can put ministry and share the good news of the gospel of salvation. So please follow me and subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell so you can be connected when I go live and know what's happening, and help us to spread the gospel of the kingdom, because we are taking it seriously. And God
yes.
bless Pastor Gary. And please give a shout out to your family. One of these days, maybe we'll have you and your wife on. Who knows? Who knows where we go from here?
Who knows? And
Who
and
knows where we
expect
go from here?
you may have to you may have to do a tape, instead of the live, because it is now five past.
I understand. And by the way, I must thank you for the sack. Somebody tell me they thank me for sharing the incredible laughing story. So they find your story interesting, and a sense of laughter. But next time, this is a one-time sacrifice. If you can drive 1,000 miles for the week, you can spend a couple of hours one night to just join me. Share your bedtime, sleep a little bit later tomorrow.
I don't mind at all. That's not a problem to me. It's not a problem for me at all. I mean, the folks in New York City right now. I mean, it's what time is it there now for you?
It's 10:06 now, 10:06 p.m.
10:06, and here in the UK it is 3:06. So
3:06 a.m. It is a living sacrifice, my friends. It's a living charge. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is Pastor Gary Graham, the son. Is almost like a replica. It's almost a replica of Bishop Lesmond Graham. Listen to that laugh. Listen to that. If you ever hear Bishop Graham laugh and listen to that, you know that's the 100% Les Graham right there. So he got that off his father's voice. My goodness, what a genetic makeup.
I'm proud to be his son.
Of course, and I'm sure he's proud that to be your father as well, because you're walking in the footsteps.
Yes. And
God bless you, my friends. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining. But you're gonna stay right there. We're gonna go off like how we came on. So we say, my friends, thank you for joining me. And please, you can share this with your friends. If you're just joining, go pick it up from the beginning. Share it with your friends and your family. Share it on your platforms. Send the link around. Tell them we have Pastor Gary Graham on the program tonight, and that will generate some interest because everybody knew Bishop Les Graham. All right, so we'll see. If you didn't know Gary, you know Les is Les' son. All right? It's like the son of God. It's the son of Les.
I haven't got the power of the son of Jesus.
I'm just saying, like, it is the son of Les Graham. All right. I'll see you next week, my friend, on another Let's Talk with the Doc. As a matter of fact, next week I'm supposed to have my Truth Matters panel discussion, and we're gonna have part 2 on sharing the gospel without prejudice or exclusivity. The gospel should be shared with everybody. We have no right to determine who we share it to and exempt some. So we're gonna have that discussion in a panel next week. So I hope you join me next week on that discussion, part 2 of sharing the gospel without prejudice. Until next time, I'll see you again on another Let's Talk with the Doc. God bless you, my friends. I'll see you again. Gary, we'll see you on the other side. Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned, because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.